Good evening and welcome to the Hot Seat. Leadership is a privilege to better the lives of others, a privilege that should be cherished and not squandered. And today in the hot seat with me is one of our country's leaders, the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Natural Resources and Cooperatives. The parliamentary representative for the constituency of Babono, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. Good day, Mr. Joseph, and welcome to the hot seat.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and I like your introductory. Leadership is a privilege, and you're correct about that one. Yeah.
It is indeed a privilege, and you have been leading us in the Ministry of Agriculture. This is actually your second time serving as Minister for Agriculture. Can you tell us, in this last cycle, 2016 to now, three of your major achievements?
Well, you're correct. That's my second stint as Minister of Agriculture and all the other area of responsibilities. I want to say, coming back in the ministry, I was a bit disappointed to see that the many programs that started during my first tenure were not implemented in the manner that we had first conceived these ideas. For example, the meat processing facility, the MPF in Viewfort. The Youth in Agricultural program is a very important program. We had the livestock program also. That was not implemented in a very meaningful way. We had also the pre-larceny program. So a number of programs that started during my tenure as Minister of Agriculture during the period 2006-2011. Unfortunately, coming back, I had to revisit these programs, right, to see how I could get additional resources to finish them or to restructure them in a manner that would impact the stakeholders. One of the new initiatives during this time is the 7 Crops program. And you heard a lot of people talking about our food import bill is very high. And the question is, those individuals who are making that pronouncement that our import bill is very high, have they gone through the import and to be able to determine what is it that we are importing? And out of what we are importing, what is it that we have or we can grow in St. Lucia to reduce our import bill? And I'm sure the answer will be no, right? You see the figures every year going up. Of course, with a thriving tourism industry, one would appreciate that there are certain bits and pieces as far as foodstuff that are required that would be imported through that subsector. And what we decided as a ministry, we said the time has come for us to act in a meaningful way. And I'm saying that because I remembered when I was the Minister of Agriculture during my first tenure, and the Honorable Prime Minister, I'm sure you remember, he was Minister of Tourism. I can tell you, he was the first Minister of Tourism that impressed me, understanding and appreciating and wanted to see that linkage between agriculture and tourism. I'm saying that because I worked in the Ministry of Agriculture before I got involved in politics. Okay, so I've served with many ministers of agriculture. Likewise, I've served with many ministers of tourism in government. Okay, what we agreed at the time when he was Minister of Tourism was to go and visit the many hotels and to find out from them what is it that they would really want from us locally, what are the local produce they would want on a sustainable basis and quality-wise. And of course, it's for us now to be able to produce these commodities on a sustainable basis. Unfortunately, we were not able to because we lost the government in 2011. So coming back, and with him as Prime Minister now, it was agreed that we should look at the 7 Crops program. And the 7 Crops program identifies 7 crops that can be grown in St. Lucia. When we did our analysis, we realized we were importing between $6 to $7 million worth on an average of these crops. All right? When you look at lettuce, we're importing over $1 million worth of lettuce. All right? So we said, no, that can continue. And that's one of the programs that we implemented in my new tenure, apart from, of course, trying to complete and revisit some of the programs that started during the period 2006 and 11. We gave ourselves some targets. In 2000, the program started in 2019. It was funded by the government and people of Taiwan, of course, with local resources. And we gave ourselves some targets. In 2019, we said we would want to at least reduce the importation of these crops by 5%. Right? I can tell you, we almost reached 5%. 4.75% is, you can say 5%. Unfortunately, in 2020, we had the experience of COVID. The hotels were closed because the hotels are one of our major markets. And one have to appreciate this. As a government and as a sector, we rely on the hotels to provide what we call a reliable market for us. So whilst we might see a reduction in these crops for 2020, I have told my ministry we should not lay claim, because with the closure of the hospitality industry, you would realize that less imports would happen. So my 7-crop program is what we're looking at, and we're hoping that we can continue with it. There are a number of farmers that are involved, and I'm sure you're aware we never closed the marketing board. We always said that we are going to restructure the St. Lucia Marketing Board. And the St. Lucia Marketing Board is what we call a central market to provide contracts with these farmers who are interested in engaging in the cultivation of these crops. We are giving technical advice, we are introducing new technology, we are giving marketing advice, and of course these farmers have to produce what we call a scheduled production.
One of the major concerns in agriculture has always been the banana industry, because we were known for green gold, and a lot of us long for the days of green gold again. And one of the promises that were made when you were campaigning in 2016 is that you will revitalize the banana industry. And some, of course, say that you were giving the farmers false hope. How have you revitalized the banana industry?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, I've gone to Parliament. I have made a statement as to the challenges that we had. We talk about the French market, and people talk about Martinique. I never said Martinique, we said France. Okay, I made a statement in Parliament as to the challenges that we face. In fact, this last sitting of Parliament, when I was speaking to the banana industry, those on the other side shouted, short fingers and long fingers. So at least they are quite aware of the challenge we face at the time, not being able to satisfy exporting to the French market, to France. What we realize that, of course, when you look at the figures, we are seeing that when we came in, there were about 287 farmers, banana farmers. Now the figures are over 750 banana farmers, right? We are seeing that when we came in, there's about 1,200 acres, right? We have over 2,500 acres. So which means the confidence of the farmers as far as our policy, because what we did, I don't know if you're aware, but what we did when we came in, we formed a program supporting farmers, what we call the Black Seeker-Toker program. And what I said as a minister, and what we said in the ministry, managing Black Seeker-Toker alone is not going to allow you to realize the type of production and productivity that you need. You need to have a holistic program, because Black Seeker-Toker, you can explain, is just to spray the banana leaves against that fungus. But you need nutrition, you need proper soil conditions, you need proper husbandry. And what we did was to revise that program into what we call a banana productivity enhancement program. Again, with support from the government and people of Taiwan. And we realized the production went up. We realized that more persons gravitated back into bananas. But of course, we have a challenge. And I don't know if we'll come to this, and that has been a talking point, Winfresh.
Before we go into Winfresh then, can we stay a little bit on the new market, France instead of Martinique? How much have we exported since 2016 to the new market?
Well, let me go over it again. The Honourable Prime Minister and myself went to the UK, and from the UK we went up to France, right? We had a visit. The reason why Martinique was in the mix is because the companies in Martinique and Guadeloupe are the companies exporting to France. Okay, so we had discussions with these companies in Martinique and Guadeloupe. When we went to France, they indicated to us that they had interest in our bananas. All right. Of course, the question is how we transport the bananas to France. And the good thing about for it is that we have that weekly supply, that weekly shipment of bananas on the Geese line to the UK. We had the Winfresh operating in the UK. So we said it would be easier for us to ship to the UK and transship to France. Okay, and they agreed to this. And what they told us, look, we will go into a trial for 3 months. Okay, they want 3 containers for 3 months. Each container, with each box should be packed with 22 clusters. A cluster is the fingers, 22 clusters with 6 fingers in a nylon bag. That is the requirement the market wanted. Right? Now, it's not like St. Lucia. They tell you bring half-ripe tomatoes or half-ripe mangoes, and you bring whatever you want and you expect the market to take it. We're dealing with a very highly sophisticated market. Unfortunately, and the farmers are there. We interacted with the farmers. We had farmers that week produce and box bananas for the French market, for France. What we realized is that we were not in a position to meet that requirement. We had some boxes with 17 clusters. We had some boxes with 20 clusters. We had some boxes with more clusters, depends on the size of the fingers. So what we realized that we don't have the finger size for us to be able to satisfy that 3 containers weekly. So when the bananas left here, we call our agency in the UK, that's Winfresh UK, and we advise what to do. All the 18 boxes with 18 clusters, put it in one location. Those with 20, put it in one location. So at least it will be easier to maneuver and to be able to distribute. When Winfresh UK called the French market, the company in France that was interested in purchasing, they said, no, that's not what we wanted. We wanted a box with 22 clusters. They rejected it. All right? So what happens is that Winfresh UK had to take on these banners and repack it and sell it on the UK market. So we tried. Now, what we told them, okay, it might be difficult for us. In fact, what we tried doing was to get banana boxes out of Martinique, because the banana box out of Martinique is a bigger box. So we tried to get banana boxes out of Martinique to see if we would be in a position to meet that requirement. And still, because of the size of our fingers and the inconsistency in the size of our fingers, it was not possible.
Okay, so just for clarification, the reason we were not able to is because I just want to understand what was the major challenge as to why it is that we could not produce the fingers.
The husbandry we have in St. Lucia, we have different size fingers, all right? In fact, when we came in, what the farmers were doing was to prune out the shorter fingers to allow the bigger fingers to get bigger, right? But what we discovered when we went up to France with the Prime Minister and, of course, in the UK, there was a bigger demand for smaller fingers. Why? Because you could put a small finger in a lunchbox, right? And, of course, it's much more accommodating. So the problem we had was the size of our fingers. But what we had agreed and we will continue to do was to engage the company, not to look at that special pack, but to look at what you call loose fruits, right? But we never reached that stage, unfortunately. But it's not a dead issue.
So on the topic of Winfresh then, how some say that you should share in the blame of the collapse of Winfresh. Can you explain to us why Winfresh collapsed? We know that Winfresh wasn't only dealing with bananas for us. They were also dealing with other fruit crops as well, and I should say other crops as well. Can you explain why the collapse of Winfresh?
You're incorrect about that one, all right? When we came in as a government, in putting the board together as far as our nomination on the Winfresh board, when we revisit what's happening, because Winfresh is not only St. Lucia, Winfresh is the other Windward Islands, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, right? That's the governments that own Winfresh, UK and Winfresh WI. What we realized in the case of St. Vincent, the Minister of Agriculture in St. Vincent was on the Winfresh board. What we realized in the case of Grenada, the Minister of Agriculture in Grenada was on the Winfresh board. So my colleague said, well, look, Minister, I think you should go on that Winfresh board with another individual. And it's a good thing they did that, right? Now, what caused the collapse of Winfresh? Yeah, well, people say, well, they blame Ezechiel because Ezechiel is on the board, and Ezechiel should not be on the board, but I mean, it's happening all over the other Windward Islands, so that's not an issue. I didn't put myself on the board, the government put me on the board because they had confidence in me serving on the board. One of the challenges we found out in Winfresh, wrong investments. Winfresh there was a proposal, intention to look at selling other fruit crops, right? I mean, I remember I had a meeting in the UK with some supermarkets, and they said, look, they're interested in sweet potatoes, but had a requirement. They wanted free containers every week. We're in St. Lucia, we can produce free containers of sweet potatoes to send to the UK on a consistent basis. That's not possible. So the whole aspect of the other crops, whilst they would talk about it, it never materialized in any meaningful way. But what really caused Winfresh to go under was the wrong investment. And I've been saying that. Winfresh bought over a failing company in the cul-de-sac. Now it's called Sunfresh. It's called Sunfresh doing water, right? Winfresh invested in a failing company in St. Vincent called Vincent, right? Likewise in Grenada, never open, right? Every year, these companies were losing millions of dollars. Okay? Now, these companies, and the structure is so complicated. You have Winfresh UK, that is marketing the banners for us on behalf of St. Lucia and other thing. And you have Winfresh WI, right? Winfresh WI is the parent company, and Winfresh UK is a subsidiary of Winfresh WI. But what was happening is that Winfresh UK was sending resources down to Winfresh WI. And what we realized that Winfresh WI owed Winfresh UK over $10 million. And where that money went into? These subsidiary companies that were failing. So just couldn't continue.
We are aware that St. Vincent is right now experiencing a natural disaster. La Soufrière volcano erupted a few weeks ago, and it's continuing to erupt at intermittent periods. So that means that there is an opening for us here in St. Lucia to supply their markets, for example, Barbados, with fruits, vegetables, and other crops. Are we trying to take advantage of that?
Well, you see, the exporting of provisions to the regional market is not government. It's not a government operation. It's been done by private sector. What we do, we provide support to these individuals. You're correct. Unfortunately, I mean, and that minister I spoke about from St. Vincent, who's on the Winfresh board, his constituency got severely affected by the eruption because that's where he's from, all right? And that's the breadbasket for St. Vincent, all right? So definitely, there's no doubt in our minds that St. Vincent has been severely affected by the volcanic eruption, okay? So it provides opportunities for other member states. So what I would want to see is that those persons who are involved, because right now we have a trade with Barbados. We have a number of private sector individuals who are trading to Barbados, trading to Antigua, to St. Kitts and these other areas, right? So it's what we do as a government to provide the support, right? They come to us, they want support with phytosanitary. They want, for example, the last time they had some serious problems with mites in the bananas. My ministry, through the research department, worked with the farmers, worked with them to try and remedy that situation. So it's not government operating that type of entity. What we are looking at, since we are restructured the Central Marketing Board, what we are saying is that one of the things we really want the Central Marketing Board to do, apart from, of course, providing that central market for our local farmers and providing that central market to be able to distribute, is how we can capitalize on the regional market. And that is something not short term, but we can look at in the medium to long term. Because the whole objective of constructing a pack house with that will be internationally recognized with that intention. So the Central Marketing Board would have to play that role. But definitely, I think, like you said, there are opportunities for those individuals who are exporting to those countries, and of course, by extension, to our farmers.
Can you please explain to us about fisheries now? A lot has been said about fisheries, and we know that right there in Sanssouci we had a major fisheries operation going on, and now it has been privatized. Can you please give us the rationale for the privatization of this very important organization?
I wish you were in my shoes to appreciate the challenges that I face when it comes to the operation of Central Marketing Board and Central Fish Marketing Corporation, right? The previous government understood that there was a need to restructure these entities. The Honorable Prime Minister then, Dr. Kenny Anthony, in his 1997-98 budget, spoke to the closure of these entities because it was a financial drain on government, right? When we came back in 2016, what we realized, over $12 million was loaned to Central Fish Marketing Corporation between 2011 to 2016. We can't continue that way. We cannot continue that way. We have to take the tough decisions. And what we agreed, I mean, at the time, my Prime Minister and Cabinet said, Mr. Minister, you have to look at these two entities. We could come here each time and access for money to build out Fish Marketing Corporation and build out the Central Marketing Board, right, to pay off for produce they purchase. We cannot continue that. So I had that responsibility to see how we can restructure these entities. Of course, I met the stakeholders, most of the fishermen's cooperatives, with farmers' organization, to see how we can come up with a formula, a new structure for these entities, to be quasi-government owned and to be run and operated by these same individuals. It is not encouraging. It's not encouraging because everybody is afraid to take on that type of level of responsibility. So we brought in a consultant to speak to the stakeholders, look at what are the possibilities, and here it is, they said, look, we should privatize these entities. In my ministry, we discussed it. We said, I don't think we should privatize the Central Marketing Board because we need to have some control. Because if you privatize it, it's strictly commercial, right? And farmers, and you will appreciate that you're dealing with a very highly perishable item when you produce your crops. So we said we would restructure the Central Marketing Board and we are going to privatize the Fish Marketing Corporation. We spoke with the Fishermen's Cooperative. They were cool about it. Sometimes they say, yes, they're interested. When we come around the table to finalize the process, they talk about the ice, how much the ice you're making on ice, because ice is highly subsidized. A lot of questions that was showing that, look, they were just prolonging the inevitable. All right? So we said we're going to privatize Fish Marketing Corporation. And there were a number of persons who were interested. The committee looked at the individuals. And of course, they finally came up with that individual. What we have realized is one. There's more, when we look at the 2019 figures, 2020 figures, more was purchased locally by this new entity compared to 2018 when we were managing it under the old structure. All right? So that's one. So which means when I'm hearing that, the Lucian Blue Ocean Seafood is not purchasing local fish, the records are there to show that's incorrect. Right? They purchased almost double what was compared to what was purchased in 2018. Right? They also talk about some social programs with the fishermen. Right? It is my understanding that fishermen are paying on time, but now there seems to be some problems with the closure of some of the hotels. The throughput is not as they would have liked. So there's some delay in payments. But the reality is I do have to go to my Minister of Finance and request $2 million, to bail out the fishermen. And what we agreed? We agreed that the monies you're going to bail out the fish cooperative, what do? We're going to inject it into the fisheries subsector. By one, purchasing more of the local fish and feed it into the school feeding program. Two, assist fishermen with new technology, with the fads and all them type things, so at least that can assist them in increasing the catch. And that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will speak to the parliamentary representative for Babonneau about his transformative plans for the constituency of Babonneau and why you should consider voting for him in the upcoming general elections. Stay tuned.